come on, get your bags, because we're going on a trip in the literary diaspora, that literary African diaspora. We're going to talk about this dope Sudanese American poet named Safia Elhillo. She's the best. So we're going over The January Children by Safia. And let's just start with who she is. So, like I said before, she's Sudanese American. She was born in America, but also spent some time in Sudan and didn't come back until around 2001. And you'll see the tension between belonging and not belonging as far as country as a theme throughout this book. But before we get there, Safia comes from a few poets. Her grandfather was a poet who writes in Arabic, and then there was also like some oral storytelling with some of her aunts where they weren't able to read or write because at the time women weren't allowed to be educated, and they would swap poetry. That at least that's the story that survived their family. What else about her? She has her MFA. She is a Cave Canem fellow. I really want to apply to that program. It's amazing. And then she's currently a fellow at Stanford, so she is well decorated. She also got married recently, and those pictures were also amazing. But anyways, let's get into the title of the book. So the title of the book is The January Children, and the story behind that, or the history behind that, is that in Sudan under British occupation, the children were assigned birth year by height, but all of them, like, they were lined up, and they were given their birth year by height, but every year was given the birthday January 1st. And so right there it tells you that this book is going to talk not only about race, about belonging, about colonialism, about post-colonialism. So it's rich. This book is very rich in history. So let's get into that. So one of the reasons why I really enjoy this book is because it's in a part of the diaspora that I don't hear about. I think a lot of the times when we think of the African diaspora, we think of African Americans and maybe Caribbean people, but we don't think about I never thought about Sudan. Like, that's not that wasn't a part of the conversation. So that's one of the things that makes this platform beautiful. That's one of the things that makes studying all African poets beautiful, is that, like, I get to learn more, and then therefore you get to learn more. So within that, one of the things that is, she just jumps at you right from the beginning is, oh my gosh, is this first page where she tells you about the occupation. And then here in Arabic it says Asmar, which is dark skin, brown skin, and Asmarani, which is a diminutive form of Asmar. And at first, I don't know, I feel like Black people like to claim stuff, and I'm like, oh, that sounds cute. We're always like, whenever I hear other people in the diaspora's named for dark-skinned people, I always think it's cute. And I'm like, oh, but wait, is this supposed to be an insult? That's always what I think. But she has a poem about that too, where she picked up this peach-colored doll, and someone called her, like, dark girl or something like that, and she didn't know that was supposed to be an insult. I think we should keep that energy. It's not... I know they intended as an insult, but honestly, it's not, to me. It's just what you are. But anyways, so getting into that, one of the beautiful things just overall about the book is the use of language, specifically Arabic and English, and how she just floats through both. And I was watching an interview where she was talking about how other Sudanese poets are doing the same, where they just write how they talk, whereas it's like whatever word comes in whatever language first, that's what she says. And one of her more popular poems, Vocabulary, she talks about the word hawa. It means love, it means wind, and she plays with that. But then I love how she uses Arabic in her words. And there are some poems I had no idea what the Arabic word meant, but it didn't detract from my experience as a reader. So language is a big thing throughout this book. Also, because a lot of this is about complexion, not everything, but a lot of it is about complexion. The race relations, I hope I'm describing this right, incidents seem to be different. If I say something wrong, please drop something in the comment section, correct me. I'm very much open to that. But based on what I understand is that Sudanese people are basically like she used the term Nubian, like it's weird because in America we say African, but like she's like Sudan's continent, so it's like really weird to use this different language. But it's also cool. But yeah, so they're the Nubian or the darker complected people, where the Arab are the lighter complected, and she talks about that quite a lot, which I didn't know. She was talking about how people get tripped up on that in the Sudanese just like racial experience, which it was confusing for me. So yeah, so basically Sudanese people are the darker complected typically. Probably, I'm pretty sure they have lighter complected people. Every group has variety, but they are the Nubian descent, but they still participate in Arab culture. So yeah, it's a little complex. What else? Escapism. There is a musician she references a lot called Abdelhalim. He is a famous Egyptian musician who has passed, but she references him a lot in terms of, to me, it was almost one of the things where she felt most seen. A lot of the times, even when she's questioning, specifically when she's talking about the music through this musician, it seemed like this is where she felt the most known, whereas she talks about how in her experience it's like she's too foreign, whether she's in Sudan or whether she's in America. Like, so yeah, she says she has an accent in every language, and so it kind of makes sense for why she finds home in the music. I think it's also interesting because music was something that was not allowed during this time, especially music about the female body, secular music. She references how people were killed, how a musician was killed for playing secular music. She has this line in there too about they were just out at a club listening, and then the police show up, and the final line of the poem was like, and this was the last time that Marvin Gaye was played in Sudan. And it was like, it's interesting that music was something that people were deprived of, but in here, in Abdelhalim, she finds a home. Yeah. I had something else on my mind. I can't think of it right now. I listened to his music and it was very different. I think I'm going to write to it though. I think it'll create a different energy or vibe to write to, so I will drop a song below. I have no idea what it's saying, nothing, but it definitely sounds like a love song. Oh yeah, she had this line that was like a song that sounds like a love song, that sounds like it could be about a woman or a country. Like, that was the gist of it. So I kind of wish I knew how to speak Arabic, but or comprehend it. But anywho, so she has other elements in her poetry that are very much alive. Smoke, water. There's a big thing with water in here. One of my favorite poems is Dilute, and I'll drop that in as well. Borders, music, we talked about that. And then family, she talks a lot about the women in her family. So yeah, I think we should get into a poem at this point. Let's get into a poem. It was so hard picking a poem because everything was absolutely delicious. Like, this book was a 5-course meal, okay? But I'm going to just pick one. called Why Abdelhalim. Because he's gone, he can never tell me I am too much or not. He will never think me too dark or not dark enough. He sings an endless echoing note, and anyone can be the girl. He says brown girl and never says how brown. He's been dead my whole life. He's used up. He's eulogizing home. He's eulogizing my mother as a girl not yet filled up with children. He sings, and she's the brown girl. He dies before she's hurt. He dies before belonging. He belongs to no one country. Same. He belongs to no one language. Check my mouth. He belongs to no one. And this way, he never leaves. Oh my gosh. I wish I had an organ. So what I find absolutely breathtaking about this poem is, again, the word choice. So this a lot, but it's the word choice for me. It's the word choice. But one of my favorite is, because he's gone, he can never tell me I am too much or too not. And you see how she bounces back, like what we discussed in the beginning, how it's like she's too brown, not brown enough. Her Arabic has an accent, her English has an accent. Why are you so ambiguous looking? Anyways, you get what it's like. People think she looks ambiguous, like an ambiguous brown girl. In America, I don't know how she's perceived in Sudan, but in America, for sure, I could see that. It's like, and this is why Abdelhalim, he's like in that perfect sweet spot of like what her experience is. I love how she adds this, how she changes between voices, where it's like he belongs to no one country. Same, like that's how I would read it, I'd be like same. And the shape of this poem too, I love it. Apparently, I think we talked about this last week about how, or at some point, how some people don't really appreciate the shape and the spacing within African poetry. I don't understand, but here the shape, the spacing is adored. So this is the poem. So as far as the overall book review, would I recommend this? Obviously. I'm obsessed, and I'm definitely going to read this again, because I feel like this is a book that needs to be savored and processed, not only because it's different for like me as a reader as far as context, but also just because her writing is so beautiful. And I felt like I was kind of rushing through it throughout the week, which I've done before, but I'm definitely going to revisit this one. She also has another book, a couple of books actually. One is called Halal If You Hear Me. I thought that was very clever for a title. And then she has another one coming out. So does War Sign Sheer. So what else do I have to say? This is good. This is good for you if you are already into like Black poetry, but you haven't reached out into that like the diaspora. So like last week we did Living Room, and that poet was Jamaican American. But if you want to extend even further out, you don't need a passport to travel all the time. Sometimes you just need a book. So that concludes the episode. If you want to reach out to me, find me on Instagram at Tania Deshawn Wright. I said last episode I was going to upload poetry on, what was it? It was iTunes. I don't think my poetry is ready for that. It's not. This is definitely like the first round of poetry that I may or may not. Anyways, I'm not going to self-deprecate. But instead, I'm going to create a SoundCloud, which one of my friends was telling me is a good way to test it out. So if you're interested, keep a lookout for that. I am working on my chapbook, which is why I look a little tired. She's a little tired. She's trying to, get it, make it happen. And I think that's it. I think that's all. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to bringing this week's episode. Y'all are getting to this week because I was late. But I'm doing a local poet, which is also important. We're not just going to, we're not just traveling throughout the diaspora. We're also, going out to the community, finding our poets. So I look forward to sharing that with you guys. Have a good one. Bye.